The moment has arrived.
The day has come. The games have been played. The arguments made. The decision final. Oklahoma, Alabama, Clemson, Michigan State. 4 teams, 1 bracket. 1 to be champion.
Championship Drive. Who's in?
You know, just like a hit sitcom, the season finale, you bring up some special moves. Robert Smith is here. Mark May is here. We brought in a ringer. Mac Brown showed up for the season finale. What gives?
Stayed up late.
And you weren't on a flight.
And I wasn't on a flight at 4 in the morning. This is good.
We love to have you, Mac.
All is
Appreciate
good.
it. New locale here. Mayday rocking a pocket square. That's something new, I think.
Every once in a while. Not often.
And my V Foundation pin is on the way.
Exactly. We'll get that cleared up, absolutely. But definitely good to have you guys here. Finally, the moment has arrived. We can talk about not just who's in, because we know who's in, but also all the bowl games and the New Year's Six as well. So the first thought to you, Robert Smith, now that we know the 4 teams that are in, any issues with how it unfolded or the seeding?
Not really. I mean, I guess the argument could be made for me that Oklahoma's better than Michigan State. Michigan State's resume is better. And people will say, okay, it's supposed to be the 4 best teams, but a little bit is about what they deserve based on the resume. When I look at the 2 resumes, Michigan State's a little bit better, so I don't necessarily have a problem with it, although I do think Oklahoma's better.
I'm glad what they did with Michigan State. I mean, they won their conference championship. They should be rewarded for that. Where Oklahoma was sitting home, staying healthy, watching everybody else play eating popcorn.
Hanging out.
So, yeah, hanging out. So, I'm glad because if you look at their resume, the victory over Oregon, the victories throughout the season, I think that they should have been rewarded at the end of the season. A tough-fought victory against Iowa in the Big Ten championship game, they should have been rewarded.
Who do you think's better?
Michigan State.
Okay.
I'm not on that bandwagon like everybody else at Oklahoma. I'm sure we've got a long show. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, by the way,
I think they're a very good football team, but I'm not glass half full yet.
We have 2.5 hours, so speak slowly and speak at length. Mac, how do you see it? Any issues with Oklahoma, Michigan State?
No, I thought it came out like I thought it should come out. And I do think that after watching the Big 12 scenario last year and TCU going from 3rd to 6th, not having a championship game, not having a presence on Saturday hurt them. They didn't have an extra game. They didn't have a chance to wow us yesterday like Michigan State did and some of the other teams. So I do feel like obviously a better place for the Big 12 this year than last year because they got in. But still, I thought it probably took them down one. And it does matter where you play. It matters who you play because who you play in the bowls are huge.
And the other thing is, how about Alabama? I can make a great case for Alabama being the best team in the land, and there's a lot of reasons why. We've got a long show to talk about it. I love what Derrick Henry's done. I love their defense. I think their defensive front 7 is the best in the playoff, and I think a lot of teams, whoever plays them, because we know Michigan State's going to play them right off the bat, I think that's the best defense that they're going to face the entire season.
But let's talk about resumes, though. Undefeated resume of Clemson is better than the 1-loss resume for Alabama.
Well, that's a good discussion because I think when you look at Alabama, when they played those teams, they were top 10 teams. The LSU's were number 2 at the time. Texas A&M was a top 10 team. Georgia was a top 10 team on the road. They defeated those teams handily. At the time, everyone thought they were good enough to be in the top 10.
And you know what's really unique about all of this? If Arkansas doesn't have a freak play at the end of the game, Alabama's not in.
Yeah.
If Michigan State doesn't have a freak play against Michigan State's not in.
Yeah.
I mean, we're looking at different teams completely with a player or two.
College football, just like 1 second back on clock, right?
Right.
Yeah, it should have been 2.
I was way downtown. Bang. That's pretty clutch. 3.5 minutes in, we were off the rails. That was the prediction coming in.
That was good, Robert.
Yeah. Many more. You got many more chances to get it right. All right. Speaking of Clemson, by the way, the pizza party here. That's right. Everybody was fired up there when it came to Clemson being number 1. As you can see, certainly pride in the fact that this team is hoping to go all the way. Right now, number 1. Dabo Sweeney with our friend Tom Rinaldi.
Dabo, we'll get to the rankings and everything else, but we have to start with how you would describe this scene and how it unfolded here in the stadium.
Only in Clemson. I mean, this is crazy. Whatever, 6 or 7 weeks ago, you make a comment, and I mean, there's probably 30,000 people here today. I mean, it was just unbelievable. But that's Clemson. That's what makes this place special and unique. And people are very genuine here and have an appreciation for what this team has done, and it showed today.
You declared that you were going to do this win or lose, and you wanted to send a message with that. What was it?
Well, that, this team wasn't going to be defined by, one moment. It's a long season. It's a long journey. We started back August 3rd, and what this team has done is special. And regardless of how the game went last night, this was a team that deserved to be celebrated and a team that was going to be in one of the New Year's Six Bowls. And I thought that was important. Plus, the pizza party took on a life of its own, and the logistics of getting all them pizzas ready, took on a life of its own as well.
2,500 pizzas, 20,000, and they waited with bated breath to see 1 against 4. Your initial thoughts on taking on the Sooners?
Oh, we didn't care who we got. We're just thankful to be in it, and that's it's 4 great teams. Obviously, Oklahoma has had an unbelievable year, and rematch from last year. It'll be a big matchup. We got a lot of respect for them, and the game went our way last year, but they had a bunch of turnovers, and that's what happens when you have 2 good teams and one team maybe has a bad day taking care of the ball. But it should be a great game down in the Orange Bowl. Going to be you have beautiful weather, and we love going down there, so we're excited about it.
What was it like to carry the #1 ranking, Dabo, throughout from week to week to week?
It's fun. And it's great. I mean, that's what we taught. We want to be #1. We want to be out front. And I think our guys embraced it. I told our team I had been voting them #1 for about 3 weeks prior to when the poll came out. And I had told our team 3 weeks earlier, hey, I voted us #1 this week. Never done that before since I've been the head coach, but I think we're the best team. And we got to continue to do the things that allow us to win. And, again, they just embraced it and had fun with it.
Finally, you've been clear. You think you have the best player in the country in Deshaun Watson. You think anyone who's seen the body of work, it should present its own argument. What do you expect to unfold as this week happens for your quarterback?
Well, I mean, who knows? But, this guy is he's the heart and soul of this team. And he just does so many things. And it all starts with your quarterback. And that's why the majority of the Heisman winners, I think, are quarterbacks. It's the most difficult position. And they're all critical, and a lot of great players out there, all deserving. You can only pick one guy. If I had a vote, I don't, but it'd go to Deshaun Watson. He's special. But a lot of great players, and I can't imagine him not being in the running and being in New York and all that. So look forward to hopefully being a part of that with him.
Finally, how do you like your pizza?
Well, I didn't get any.
What? Why not?
But I'm going to. That's for sure.
Congratulations, Dabo. We appreciate the time.
Appreciate it.
Dabo Swinney, head coach of the #1 Clemson Tigers.
You better believe Rinaldi had a couple of slices. He was very gleeful there in asking that question. Well, certainly we heard Mark's opinion, Robert's opinion. Mac, what do you think? Any issues with Clemson being #1?
No, I don't think so. And you could, because Clemson defense gave up a lot of yards, gave up a lot of points, controversial call at the end. But I think when you're #1, you've been #1 all year, I think they deserve to keep it because Alabama didn't blow Florida out. We thought they would. But Florida made some points and kept it at least interesting there some in the fourth quarter. So I think we got it right.
But there was never a time in that game where you thought Florida might beat Alabama.
No, not at all. And I think that they controlled the game basically from start to finish. I know it was Florida had a lead early, but that was one of those plays where it was a return. But I think one thing about the selection committee, I think they got the top 4 teams right, no matter what order you put them in. You're just nitpicking right now. But I think they did a great job of getting the right 4 teams in the playoff.
And I do think second year, it was easier because it worked better.
Much
but
easier.
also, I sat there with them a month ago and went through the 2011 season. Mm-hmm. Texas was 8-5. I voted them ¡1. They got a little sensitive. I told them the eye test. I thought the coaching, all of that made it good for me, and it just didn't go well for the committee. But they do a good job. They really do a good job of looking at everything. And still, there's not a complete process of exactly what you have to do to give your vote. You get to vote for who you want to.
Yeah, and by the way, that 1 second, I think it was right, although you said it should have been 2 seconds. I want to clarify. I thought it was the right call.
We just needed one. That was plenty.
But you make a great point about the process, and this is why I'm a little bit surprised to hear this out of Nick Saban, although we know that his press conferences have been very interesting this year anyway. When he criticized the committee coming out and releasing these rankings, I think it's important for this committee to get together every week and to go through this process, because they're basically doing dry runs for what it's going to be at the end of the year, and it allows us to have some transparency into the process so that we can see this is the way they're moving teams based on the way games go from week to week. So this is how we can project and look at the end.
And why? And plus, when they go to the eye test, you've got former coaches, athletic directors in there. It's tough. Everybody's got their own opinion on what they think a great team is, or one team against another. So I'm sure there's a lot of discussion in there about that. But I still think with the process that they've gone through this season, you really can't argue the top 4 teams. I think it's tough to. The teams that are outside of the top 4, I don't think they can make a really strong case to say that we should be in the top 4.
Better than computers and polls.
Yeah, a whole lot better. And better than the BCS, because we're talking about 1 and 2. And now we get to see who's the best. Even the fight over Rose Bowl. We could argue a long time, should it be Ohio State or Iowa? I mean, you can
That's
get
why you wear an Iowa tie.
He got Iowa stuff.
There's
Ohio
a reason
State
I did wear it. Absolutely. And there's a reason, because you know what? I'm glad that they rewarded Iowa. I'm glad they didn't take them down, because they lost a 3-point game in a championship game. They were undefeated the entire season. And there's rumor out there that they're going to knock them out and put Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. And I didn't think that was right. I think that they got it right. I think the decisions they made, the top 4 right, and I think they got Iowa going to the Rose Bowl.
We'll talk more about Iowa